Up to now, you've done the core scientific work. You asked a question, collected data, and analyzed it using statistics. But science doesn't stop there. If results aren't communicated clearly, they might as well not exist. In this activity, we're focusing on how scientists write about their findings, specifically how they separate what they found from what those findings mean. This is a big part of thinking and writing like a scientist. In scientific papers, the results and discussion sections are closely related, but they have very different jobs. The results section answers the question, "What did you find?" The discussion section answers the question, "So what?" Keeping these roles separate helps make your writing clearer and more professional, and it helps readers trust that your interpretations are grounded in actual data. The results section is essentially a guided tour of your data. You're telling the reader what you measured, what patterns you observed, and what the statistics say about those patterns. This is where you point to your graphs and tables and describe what they show. The key word here is objective. You're not arguing or explaining, you're reporting. This is where a lot of students accidentally drift into the discussion without realizing it. If you start using words like because, this suggests, or this might be due to, you're no longer just reporting, you're interpreting. That kind of thinking belongs in the discussion. The results section should stick to what the data and statistics actually show. These are examples of strong results statements. Notice how they're very direct and very neutral. They describe differences, report which comparisons were significant, and include the statistical result. But they don't explain why species A is different or what that means biologically. That restraint is exactly what makes them good results statements. The discussion section is where you step back and think like a biologist. Now you're allowed, actually expected, to interpret the results. You explain what the patterns mean, how they connect to what we know about plants, and why the findings are interesting or important. This is where the story of the experiment really comes together. Here we're no longer just listing outcomes, we're interpreting them. We're thinking about why species A might differ, why species B and C might be similar, and what leaf size might mean for how plants function. We're also using the very small p-value to talk about confidence in our conclusion. This is classic discussion material. Good science is honest about its limits. No experiment is perfect, and the discussion section is where you acknowledge that. Maybe the sample size was small. Maybe measurements weren't perfectly precise. You also use this space to suggest what should be done next, how someone could build on this experiment to learn even more. This slide is a good mental checklist. If a sentence is about what the data show, it belongs in results. If it's about what those data mean, it belongs in discussion. When you're writing, asking yourself that simple question can save you a lot of confusion and a lot of points on lab reports. Separating results and discussion isn't just a style choice. It's about scientific honesty and clarity. Readers should be able to see the evidence first without being influenced by interpretation, and then decide whether they agree with how the authors explain it. This separation is part of what makes science transparent and trustworthy. Before you answer these reflection questions, think about what job each section of a scientific paper is supposed to do. For the first question, about the main difference between the results and the discussion, focus on purpose. Ask yourself, is this section supposed to report what happened or explain what it means? One of these sections is about facts, numbers, and patterns. The other is about interpretation, meaning, and biological context. If you keep that difference in mind, the answer becomes pretty clear. For the second question, about why the results section should report data and statistics without explaining why, think about objectivity and clarity. Ask yourself, what could go wrong if you start mixing explanation and interpretation into the same place where you're supposed to be just reporting evidence? This question is really about separating evidence from interpretation so the reader can see the data first and then decide whether they agree with the explanation. For the third question, where you have to write one results statement and one discussion statement using the leaf area experiment, pay attention to tone and wording. A results statement should sound factual and neutral, like you're describing what a graph or table shows or reporting a p-value. A discussion statement should sound more like you're thinking out loud as a biologist, talking about what the patterns might mean, why species might differ, or what the results suggest about plant traits. If you're unsure where a sentence belongs, ask yourself this: am I reporting what the data show, or am I explaining what the data mean? That question will usually point you to the right section. The big takeaway here is that how you communicate your results matters just as much as the results themselves. The results section reports the evidence. The discussion section explains and interprets that evidence. Keeping those roles separate makes your writing clearer, more professional, and more scientifically rigorous. And it's exactly how real scientists write.